Welcome back to the Stretch the Floor podcast. I'm Matthew, and I'm here as always with Venushan, and it is that time again of the offseason. One of our favorite things to do on this podcast is every year, every offseason, just take a look at every position, all five positions, just give our rankings, my rankings, your rankings, see like how much it changes year to year, because we disagreed a lot with every position, but centers especially last year. My list looks a lot different than it did last year. A lot different. So like I said, I don't know your list, you don't know my list. One thing to note is that we're doing positions based off of the Basketball Reference. The only changes we're making is Jason Tatum and DeMar DeRozan are going to be considered small forwards for us. Other than that, everything is straight from Basketball Reference. LeBron is a point guard, Luke is a point guard, Anthony Davis is a power forward. That's the only change we're making. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into our top 10 centers. We usually start with, are we going to start with honorable mentions, or do you want to just go right into the list?
I think we should just do 10, 9, 8, and then we can see who we miss at the end.
Okay. So you go first. Okay. Give me your 10, 9, 8.
So at 10, I have Clint Capela. At 9, I have Miles Turner. And at 8, I have DeAndre Ayton.
Wow. Okay. At 10, I have Kristaps Porzingis. And 9, I have Clint Capela. And then 8, I got Christian Wood.
Yeah. So basically, Kristaps Porzingis does not make my list. I just feel his impact is so outweighed by his contract and what he does in the come playoff time. Like, he could score you 20 points, he could get you the 10 rebounds, but come playoff time, he just is a shooter, and that's all he does. Like, he's not an effective rebounder where he goes and impacts the game through enormous rebounding numbers. He's not the rim protector that he used to be with the New York Knicks. Those knee injuries, I don't know if they caught up to him, slowed him down a little bit, but yeah, he's not the same rim protector that he was. And he should be better than someone like a Clint Capela, who we both have higher than him. You know, Porzingis is my 11. Presumably, he's my number one guy off the list. Clint Capela is number 9 for you. Yeah. So Clint Capela is ahead of him for both of us. And that shouldn't be a thing, because Porzingis is, a million times more skilled than Clint Capela.
Yeah.
Clint Capela, everything Clint Capela does, Porzingis can do if he just played with more heart, right? Yeah. So if he played with more heart and add the jump shot, he could be way better player, and he could be up in that top 5 ranking, but he just hasn't been doing it, man.
Yeah, no, totally. When he's healthy, first of all, he's never healthy. I don't know if what I'm going to get from him year to year into the playoffs, whatever. But even if he's healthy, he's good for 20 points in the regular season. Yeah. Right, all he's going to do is shoot. He's going to get a bunch of wide open shots, especially from Luka. 7-3 can shoot over anyone, really. But come playoff time, even when he's healthy, he gets reduced to 28, 29, $30 million role player who's basically just Davis Bertans. Only hit 36% of his threes this past season, so he becomes very one-dimensional. He does not a switch guy who can switch on the perimeter. He's not the rim protector he used to be. He only grabbed 7 boards a game or something at 7-3.
Yeah.
No post game to speak of whatsoever. He put up 13 and 5 playing all 7 games of that Clippers series. 13 and 5, 13 points and 5 rebounds from a 7-3 guy who is supposedly a unicorn. His maybe if he was making, $8 million, $12 million, we would think that's pretty good value. He's amazing. But for $30 million, I'm with you. I considered leaving him off my list too. In fact, I really wanted to put Jonas Valentinus in my top 10, coming off a career year, 17 and 12 and a half, 37% from 3, but he's probably my number 11, Valentinus. I don't know if he's made your list or not.
No, he didn't make my list. He's probably he's up there for me as well. And people are going to look at the regular season stats and be like, man, 28.9 rebounds. He's doing decent. He shot 37% from 3. He's a good shooter. They say that. But those 7 games are more impactful than all the 43 games that he played. And 13 and 5, man. It's just so ridiculously bad that I can't put him on there. And I guess we could move on to the guy that we had above him, Clint Capela.
Yeah.
He's just all hustle, man. This guy literally hustling, grabbing rebounds, jumping for lobs. He's just athleticism, basketball knowledge, positioning, and he's not the most skilled guy, but he knows his size, he knows his body, he knows his strengths, and he plays his role. And players should look to him, 7-foot guys that are coming up in the league, and they don't have the backdown game that Embiid has. They don't have the passing that Jokic has. They don't even have the shooting that Porzingis has, right? They should look and be like, yo, Clint Capela is just positioning and hustle. I could do that. That's what we always say. Big centers that are mobile, we're like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, Clint Capela is your stealing. Like, try to be this guy, right? And I really like him for what he does, how much hustle he has. Obviously, Trae Young likes him. They did a lot better when he was finally healthy and playing this year compared to last year. And he definitely deserves a list on this top 10 from everyone, I think.
Yeah, the opposite of Porzingis,
Yeah.
nowhere near as talented, nowhere
Skilled.
near,
Yeah.
but works, hustles. 15 points, 14 boards, and 2 blocks a game this year. Fit right in with Atlanta,
Crazy.
playing
Yeah.
like he kind of knew how to play with the Trae Young type of player coming from James Harden, Houston, but Trae Young is more of like a guy who's going to feed the bigs and stuff like that in the pick and roll. And I think he fits in perfectly there. Like man, like he's just the perfect guy, like perfect guy
Yeah.
for them. Yeah, he doesn't shoot, but like you said, any center like Precious Achiuwa on the Raptors, 6'9", 6'10", with athleticism and wingspan. Like if he ever becomes Clint Capella, like I think we'll both be very happy.
Yeah, and Precious Achiuwa, like we're gonna bring him up a little bit, but he's the guy that we see Clint Capella, we see his body, we see how Precious played in the games that he did get with Miami, we see how Precious played the games that he did get in the summer league, and that's someone that's very comparable. And we have Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, like a roster that can help him and just give him that Clint Capella role. So that's definitely something that Precious should be trying to achieve, and I think Precious will achieve. Maybe not next season, but soon.
Yeah, totally with you. So, you had Aiton as number 8, and I had Christian Wood. So I'm assuming you have Wood higher. I have Aiton a couple spots higher than that. So
Yeah, well, let's talk about my number 9.
yeah,
That's
you got Miles Turner there.
Miles Turner. So Miles Turner, I'm assuming didn't make your list.
Yeah, he didn't quite make it for me. I
Yeah.
had like he's
So
on my honorable mentions. He's a top 13 to 14 for
yeah,
me. But yeah,
and
let's hear your take.
the reason I gave Miles Turner is just defense.
Yeah.
Like he hasn't scored. He scored 14.5 points in 2016, and that was kind of his peak. And then this year he scored 12.6. Right, he's so good on defense, man. Like it's actually crazy. Like the block numbers he puts up, 3.4 for this season is insane. And people are gonna be like, oh man, like blocks is just one facility of the game. But
Mm-hmm.
like the way Miles Turner is, it impacts the game so much because when he's behind there, you see teams just trying to settle for mid-range jump shots, difficult floaters, fade away, stuff like that. So he's impacting the game so much. And if he played more than 47 games this year, he definitely would have been a defensive player of the year candidate.
Yeah.
I think he was that third spot over
Yeah.
Draymond Green if he played more games. But sadly, injuries caught up to him and he couldn't play there. But man, just a solid shooter, 33.5%, 60% from 2-point field goal, effective field goal percentage of 56%. Not the greatest rebounder at 6.5,
Yeah.
but you have to
Yeah.
remember he's playing next to Sabonis. So it's not like he's a bad rebounder. He's kind of just letting Sabonis get the rebounds.
True.
I think if he was playing next to someone like a stretch 4 that doesn't get a lot of rebounds, like let's say a Pascal Siakam who gets only like 7-6 rebounds, I think this guy could definitely average 10 rebounds. He's just playing into the team role. He's sacrificing his stats, and he's a really good teammate. And he's like everything you want next to like a dominant power forward, like a Zion,
Yeah. Yeah.
Pascal Siakam, a Sabonis. This is the type of center you want, and that's why I think he deserves it because he sacrifices so much that he's so good that people don't realize.
Yeah. They're definitely with you on all that. 2 reasons I left him off my list. One, the rebounding. That's a good point about playing beside Sabonis. Sabonis, when I was
Yeah,
looking up his stats, I was kind of surprised he averaged 12
how
boards a
much he
game
has. Yeah,
as a power
yeah,
forward. So that definitely plays a factor into it. And number 2, we think of him as a stretch 5 who's like, 38, 39% from 3. He's only 33%. He took
yeah,
like what, 5, 6, 7 attempts a game this year. So if that efficiency were a little bit higher, I would consider it. But again, he just missed the cut for me. Definitely respect everything he did. And if it weren't for injuries, I think I even had him as my number 3 defensive player of the year, like even with the injuries. So
yeah,
like when we did
yeah,
our thing. So yeah. Uh, you had 8 and number 8. I had Christian Wood. I guess want to just
yeah. So
what's
Christian
your
Wood is my number 7. So
okay?
just he's only one spot higher. Uh, we'll talk about Christian Wood right now. You're number
Yeah.
8, my number 7. And the reason I had Christian Wood so high is he's just such a versatile scorer.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about a center who's a 3-level scorer.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. Like this guy
Yeah.
is such a good scorer. And people don't realize like how close he was to making the All-Star game, how close he was to winning MIP. If he played a full season, I think both those awards are probably his.
100%, I
Randall
think.
Randall was pretty close there too, but
Yeah.
him and Randall would definitely been really close.
Yeah.
You have to remember he jumped from a 13-point scorer to a 21-point scorer. He only was grabbing 6 rebounds. Now he's grabbing 9.6, close to 10. He's solid on. He has 1.2 blocks, so it's not like he's a slouch on the defensive end. 57% effective field goal percentage, so he's still a good shooter, very efficient. So this guy's just a guy that's averaging 21 and 10 efficiently and doing it from all ranges.
Yeah, he's versatile on both ends of the floor, right? Because he's like going up against a Jokic or an Embiid, he's probably not like
getting
the type of
dominated
center
kind
that
of.
you want. He's gonna get maybe dominated, but who isn't? But he's gonna switch on the perimeter. He's 21 and 10, 37% from three. Only played half the season last year. If he played the full season, again, he's probably even higher for me on this list. But I can't even think if I'm like building a center, I can't even think of like a more perfect center for today's NBA. He shoots threes. He's athletic, great in the pick and roll, runs the floor in transition, switches on the perimeter. Like if Evan Mobley just ends up being a slightly taller Christian Wood, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah.
So like it just because he's only been doing it for a year, but like what he's done in these 41 games and the talent he showed last year is definitely good enough to be a top 10, maybe even like a top 7 to 6 center.
Yeah, and his 3-point shooting is so good, like 37.4 on 5 attempts this year.
Crazy.
Like that's a good 3-point shooter. So someone you can't leave, too much space with. And he just does it on all levels, man. Like when you see 3-level scorers, you talk about guards, forwards. Obviously, there's a couple ones that are, a little bit higher up that are also 3-level scorers, but those guys are established and have a lot of awards. Like Christian Wood doesn't get the recognition those guys get. So that's what I'm saying. Like as a 3-level scorer from the center position, it's crazy. If John Wall was healthy more, or James Harden actually stayed a full season, we actually would have seen, I think, even better stats.
Yeah.
Because without John Wall and without James Harden, it was tougher for Christian Wood because he was the main focus. Everyone knows he was going to get the ball and score 100% of the time, until Kevin Porter's rise at the end of the season. But now that they have a Green who could average 18 points straight off his rookie year, John Wall saying he's healthy again and saying he's going to try to play a full season, Kevin Porter Jr. coming in as established young talent who could do a lot, it's just going to alleviate some pressure off of Christian Wood. He's still going to be the first option, but he's not going to be the only option anymore, and he's going to be able to do even better things, man. I could see him averaging 23, 24, maybe even 25.
Easily. And can you imagine if the Warriors somehow, they have the assets to get that trade done. So if they ended up getting him, man, not all those national TV games, like everyone would see just how good this guy is. And I think people just kind of maybe discounted a little bit just because he only did it for 41 games. The 21 and 10 was only over 41 games. But when he got signed to Houston for that very, very affordable deal that our Raptors easily could have paid, we kind of knew what we were going to see. I don't think we thought he was going to be 21 and 10.
It's good,
but we knew he was stretch 5 who has athletic, good switching on the perimeter and all that stuff. So I am not shocked by these numbers at all.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be like 16 and 10 guy, next to Harden. But the second Harden was, even when Harden was there, this guy was just being that number 2 option, going crazy. And, respect to him for that. Like he signed up on a situation that changed up on him. Because I'm pretty sure he was thinking, oh man, I'm going to play with Westbrook and James Harden. Oh, Westbrook's gone. Oh, at least John Wall's still there, right? And then John Wall got injured and stuff kept changing, but he still persevered, played through that. I hope he has a full healthy year, man, because playing the center spot with his frame is going to be tough. Yeah,
and that's very true. But give him a full healthy year, more production like this, and he could jump a couple of guys in my list for sure.
He could definitely be like an all-star.
Yeah. So let's go into the next tier. I'll give you my 7-6-5-4 or 7-6-5.
7-6-5, yeah.
All right. So I got Vucevic at 7. I got DeAndre Ayton at 6, and then Karl Anthony Towns at number 5.
Whoa. Okay. I got Rudy Gobert at 5, Vucevic at 6, and I had Christian Wood at 7.
Okay.
let's talk about Aiton, I guess.
Yeah, let's go Aiden.
So
I would have Aiden probably where you do if it weren't for the playoffs. I
playoffs,
think in
yeah.
the playoffs we saw him become literally the perfect NBA center. Uh,
Hmm.
protects the rim, grabs 10 to 12 rebounds a game.
Yeah.
He switches on the perimeter, runs on the fast break, averaged 18 and 12. Mid range, not too much of a 3-point shooter, but decent from the free throw line. Just plays perfectly as an just a lob threat, rim running center, and just perfect third option for a championship team, in my opinion.
Yeah, the reason I have Aiton a little bit lower is because he is a third option where I could see those guys kind of a second option. And
Yeah,
I think it's because of the 3-point shot. Like most of those guys I have above him, like Vucevic, Wood, uh, obviously Gobert is kind of an exception, but Gobert is one of the best defenders. But those guys have that 3-point shot, which just open up the offense
yeah,
so much and alleviate that so much. Christian Wood, just a 38% 3-point shooter, while Aiton doesn't really even like shoot 3-point shots. So that's why I gave him down there. But he did incredible. Someone who averaged 14 and 10, that's down from his previous years of 18 and 11, 16 and 10. He sacrificed, to get Chris Paul on this team, to get that second seed, to get Devin Booker flowing, to get Jay Crowder, all those guys their shots that he sacrificed as a young guy. So, gotta give him respect for that. But this next year, when I think Chris Paul takes a bigger step back, we can see Aiton get back to that 18 and 10 or 20 and 10 stats that he had the previous year before.
yeah. And like when they needed every one of those 18 and 12 in the playoffs, and he was some games their best player, some games their second best
Yeah,
player, but never worse than their third best player. The amount of consistency they got from him was crazy. And I think he's a top 2 to 3, like two-way. If we're talking two-way centers, he's definitely
yeah,
like in that upper tier of two-way centers. There are guys who are better
yeah,
than him defensively. There are definitely guys who are better than him offensively, but not too many guys who are better on both ends.
yeah, yeah. That's the thing. Like he was able to be mobile enough. Obviously, Giannis kind of exposed him, but who doesn't Giannis expose, right? That's
Yeah,
why he's a two-time MVP.
yeah,
But other than Giannis, he was having great season, like defensive playoff
yeah,
performances where he was rotating, switching, being a rim protector, all that stuff. So we got to give him his credit where his credit's due. I just want to see that point production go up next year.
no, for sure. And I think his personality helps him too, because he's got like one of the funniest and like
Yeah,
most like I guess
likable
like
personalities.
likable interviews and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yeah, he's definitely gonna be a fan favorite for many years to come. And hey, they took him with the first overall pick over Luka, over Trae Young, got him to the finals. So I don't think they're regretting that, even though they would love to have
yeah,
Luka. I think that draft pick is still a win.
yeah, yeah. Making a finals appearance.
Yeah,
Like it's like the Hakeem pick, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you get two championships, you're okay with it.
exactly. Okay, so I have Vucevic 7. You have Vucevic where?
6. I
Six.
have him
Okay, so
6.
let's
Yeah,
just talk Vucevic. He's kind of like baby Jokic almost. He shoots well from three.
yeah.
He's
Good
good for
passer.
20 to 22 points a game. Good passer,
Yeah,
not Jokic level passer, but like he's
a
a
good
guy who
one.
can be the hub of your offense. We saw that on
Yeah,
Orlando. It didn't lead to much winning, but he can be that. Not the greatest defender, but good rebounder, big body, and just pencil him in for 20
it's
and 10
incredible.
every game. Good shooter too.
Yeah, people underestimate how insane his stats were last year. Like, if you guys played fantasy, he was like literally a top 10
Yeah,
fantasy pick. Like, that's how good he was. So he averaged 23.4 points, 11.7 rebounds, 3.8 assists, 0.7 blocks, 0.9 steals, and he did it with shooting over 50% from the 2-point, shooting 40% from 3-point on 6.3 attempts.
yeah,
And like he was just balling, man. And he shot 84% from free throw line too. So
yeah,
basically offensively, he was perfect.
yeah,
He was giving you like 23 and on great efficiencies with great rebounding and good assists. And the only reason he's so low is because he's not a high level defender.
yeah,
But man, offensively, he was one of the best. He took a step back when he went to Chicago,
yeah.
obviously playing next to Embiid. He was going 24 in Orlando when he was the main option. Went to Chicago, got down to like 22. I think this next coming year with Lonzo and DeMar, he probably is going to be like a 20 to 19 point scorer. He's going to take even more sacrifices, but this is just a winner, man. Like anyone who watches that's why he makes all-star games.
Yeah.
Coaches realize how good he is. he's just not a fan favorite because his game's like on the floor and kind of like, just a shot, like very like, it's not like posterizing dunks, but he's just so good. And I think NBA players know it, coaches know it, like hardcore fans know it. And yeah, he's just so good.
Yeah, he's not a fan favorite for that reason. Also, he was in Orlando, which
Yeah,
even if they were a good team, it's Orlando and no one like really cares about them too
really
much. But
curious.
now
Yeah,
that he's in Chicago, it wasn't like the smoothest transition when he went to Chicago playing with Levine. It's a big adjustment. He was so used to being the first option always,
yeah,
and then playing under Levine. Now he's gonna be with DeMar, Levine, Lonzo Ball. That team is going to offensively, like he may score less than 20, he may average 18, 19, but his impact on winning is going to be probably the biggest it's ever been. And just seeing some of the things he can do, he's going to be stretching the floor. That's going to be so valuable having guys like DeMar and
especially
Lonzo.
with
Or
Demar.
Lonzo's
Yeah,
he's good now, but with DeMar, it's going to be so valuable having a center
love
that
that.
can
Yeah,
stretch the floor at like 38% on 6 attempts a game.
yeah. Demar kind of basically never had a really high
Yeah.
efficient 3-point scoring center. Like the best was, I guess, Marcus Aldridge when he played center with the Spurs. But man, with Vucevic, Lonzo, Levine, and Patrick Williams surrounding DeMar DeRozan, like he's gonna be able to just be in the paint, live in the paint,
Yeah.
live in the mid range, and
Yeah.
it's gonna help so much. And that's what you get when you get a 40% 3-point shooter. Like Vucevic is
Crazy.
probably the best or the
It's
second
crazy
best
because we
3-point
don't we
shooter.
don't we talk about Towns, we talk about Porzingis, we talk about sometimes Jokic, but he
Yeah,
might be the best shooting center in the league.
shooter.
Like,
Yeah, like obviously Karl Towns would still probably be my pick, but
yeah,
which is definitely close. It's definitely like
yeah,
1A, 1B.
yeah.
But yeah, man, like people really have to put some respect on Vucevic's name. The best 7-foot shooter, potentially. Kevin Durant 7 foot too, but besides Kevin
Yeah,
Durant, maybe ever.
yeah, yeah. No, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, Dirk got to be up there, but
They're gotta be up there too. Yeah.
yeah. But at least currently, he's one of the like probably a
The
top
best.
three 7 foot center or shooter in the league, top 3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where it gets a little confusing. So I have Towns 5. You have Gobert 5.
Gobert 5. Yeah.
I have Gobert 4. So I guess we just talked about him.
Yeah. I guess we'll talk about Gobert. The Towns pick was a little surprising for me, but we'll
Okay.
get back to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gobert, he's an amazing defender. Can't do anything on offense, essentially, during playoff time. And that's why he's all the way down at 5, because it's probably one of the best defenders all time.
Yeah. No, that's the reason I have like if we're talking talent, if we're talking who I want to watch, if we're talking who I'm picking to make a team, Towns is getting picked over Gobert 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, yeah.
And every year we see him get exposed. It was probably a little bit better this
Less
year
this year. Yeah.
than in previous years, but still we see that like defensively on the perimeter he does get exposed, and but more so offensively, like he just can't do anything. He doesn't like
Yeah.
he doesn't hustle as hard as Clint Capela. If he hustled as hard as Clint Capela on offense and look to score as much as Capela does in the ways he can, maybe like this guy has the physical tools to average 20 like easily. You don't
Yeah.
need to be able to shoot to average 20, especially at his size. Um, but he's a what 3-time defensive player of the year now?
It's play of
2-time?
the year. Yeah.
3-time defensive player of the year. You can't deny that you're a top 3 seed with him every year when he's on your team. You're a
Yeah.
top 3 to 4 seed. So to me, as much as I like Towns and talent wise, he's so much better, so much more exciting, so much more interesting. Gobert is an automatic top 4 seed when he's on your team.
Yeah. And what Gobert needs to do, he needs to add some type of post game. I'm not saying like you need to be like Hakeem or whatever. Just add a baby hook,
Yeah.
just one dribble hook or one dribble, dunk. Like just add something. Like you can't have moments where Chris Paul's guarding you in the playoffs from 2 years ago and you get stopped, right? Like you can't have that. And for me, his offensive game he's like a Dennis Rodman type. Like obviously people are like all heads are gonna be like, oh, he's nowhere near the level of defender, but 3 times defensive player of the year, one of the best defenders. He's gonna help you win games. He's just 0 on offense, and
yeah,
the highest I could put him at 5 because he was a 0 on offense.
Yeah, no, it's tough. If like playoff wise, man, like he's
just
probably
so bad.
Like I'd probably even rather have Vucevic than him in the playoffs. Like, I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe, but just like I don't think you can discount the regular season that he literally gets you into the playoffs. But okay, so let's move on to the next tier. So I had Towns 5, Gobert 4. You just give me your top 4.
Give me my top 4. Okay, so I had Bam 4,
Okay.
Cat 3,
Yeah.
Embiid 2, Jokic 1.
Okay, so I had Gobert 4, and then I had Bam 3, and then
Yeah.
there's only one option here. Jokic has to be 1, and Embiid has to be
Yeah.
2. Okay, so let's talk. Do you want to talk more towns
Bam.
or
Let's
Bam?
talk Bam versus Cat. Like,
All right,
let's do Bam first, and then we'll
let's
do
go.
Cat.
Yeah.
Bam, I have at 4. He's an incredible defender. He's a good offensive player. Not incredible. He's a good offensive player, and he is getting slightly overrated because of that finals appearance. I have to give him that.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's great. He is great, but he is getting slightly overrated. He averaged 18.7 points, 9 rebounds. He shot
5.5
79%,
assists.
5.5 assists, probably the second best passing center in the league right now.
Yeah.
79%, 79.9% from the free throw line. So he's a good free throw shooter. He's a good 2-point shooter at 57%. This is the one thing that he's just not. He's just not a 3-point shooter. It just doesn't take him. Takes 0.1 at 25%. So he's not a 3-point shooter. He's not kind of someone who's going to space the floor for you. But he's good. We've seen that he can have playoff success. We've seen him get that, what's his career highlight? Is that block on Tatum.
Yeah.
So we know he's a playoff defender, playoff successor, with the finals run. He just does everything, man. And if he could just add a mid-range shot, I think he would get that top 3 spot for me.
Yeah. So for me, I'm looking at it on both ends. He's one of the most switchable big men ever. He's 6'9", 6'10", really strong. He can guard the Anthony Davises. He guards Giannis. He did a really good job guarding Giannis in that series in the bubble. Embiid. And then he can maybe not guard point guards, but he can switch out onto the
close,
move his feet.
Yeah.
He can guard wings for sure. He's a for his size, a really good rim protector. Just positioning and help their team defense and all that stuff. He's just, there's no weaknesses with him defensively, except his size. I guess he's not going to be grabbing 15 boards a game. He'll be grabbing like 9 or 10, but there's no weakness for him. He's maybe the most versatile defender in the league outside of Giannis. And then on the other end, he's a 19-point scorer, 5.5 assists. He is a point center, shoots 80% from the free throw line. The only thing, like, he's not a post scorer or anything like that. He's more of a guy that is kind of just like going to score when he can. He doesn't really have a mid-range shot. He doesn't shoot the 3 at all, but 80% from the line is promising. And that's for a center of like much better than Gobert. And I don't know. I just love his two. Yeah. He's just amazing. There's just no weaknesses with him. He probably is getting overrated because of that finals appearance, but I don't think he can be any worse than 4.
Yeah. And that's why I had him at 4 too. And the reason I'm going to explain my Karl-Anthony Towns at 3 pick, although those top 3 guys, the reason I have them so highly rated, they average 25 a game.
Yeah.
Like that's just incredible. Like no one else does that. And they're that good, right? Like to average 25 a game means if you get 20 a game, that's bad and your team's probably losing. Like these guys average 25 a game consistently for multiple years. That's why I have Towns 3, because he had no success winning wise, but also his team never healthy, right? D'Angelo Russell and him have been together for 3 seasons now and played a combined games of like
5,
like 17, I think, like literally like very low, right? So he just hasn't been healthy. But his last 3 years, he averaged 24.4, 26.5, and 24.8.
Yeah,
this guy's just a scorer, man. Like he's just incredible, and he's a good rebounder. You can't fault his rebounding. 12.4, 10.8, 10.6. Great rebounder. Free throw percentage, 84, 80, 86.
He's almost 50, 40, 90 as a center.
Like he's shot 40% from 3-point line 3 out of the last 4 years. This last year he didn't do it, but man, he's incredible. He's efficient. He's literally one of the best scorers of all time, like from the center spot. If he stays healthy, he just can't stay healthy. His defense is pretty bad, but it's not as bad as people try to make it out to be. People try to say it like he's the worst defender of all time. That's not true. Yeah, he's not one of the worst defenders of all time. He is passable on the defensive end. He just doesn't have a power forward to kind of help him. Like, who's the power forward of the Minnesota Timberwolves?
I honestly don't know because they just traded
McDaniels.
Yeah.
Daniels is good, but he's young, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Torian Prince is like a small forward slash forward. Like he doesn't have a good power forward to help him, like a Patrick Williams helps Vucevic,
Yeah.
someone like that, like a really elite defender next to him. And he just
Yeah.
has horrible management, right?
Yeah.
Like get this
No.
guy on a good managed team that's not the Timberwolves, and he's probably contending for 1, 2.
Yeah.
But I think he's a clear number 3 because of the Timberwolves.
Like, yeah, man, talent wise, Jokic already won an MVP, but Towns could be the next center to win an MVP, just like based on his talent.
Yeah,
25 a game. Man, like it's not some things are his fault. Yeah, he's not the best defender in the world, but with a
yeah,
revolving door of coaches, a revolving door of teammates, no stability, uh, injured all the time, either him or his teammates, with
yeah.
no good defenders around him. Like Jokic, up until he was a little better this year, but he's never been a good defender.
Agreed.
I don't think you would ever
Yeah,
call him a good defender, but he has Aaron Gordon beside him, Paul Millsap. He's got these other good defenders around him with stability and good coaching.
yeah, yeah,
You can hide the weaknesses and still create a winning team around that player. We've never seen that with Towns. That is not his fault whatsoever. I'm hoping we start seeing that this year. I don't think their defense is going to be much better this year, but
yeah,
I'm hoping at least they can be like a Hawks type of team where no one predicted them to be good defensively, but they're just so good offensively that they can win. I don't think they'll be in the playoffs, but he is too good to be this low in my ranking. Like he should be a top 3
yeah.
center. It's just never amounted to anything. So that's why I have him at 5.
Yeah, he just has no success, which is fair. And he is not an injury prone guy. Like he averaged
No.
82 games the first 3
Yeah.
seasons. Then he did 77 the third season. And then obviously the last 2 seasons is what's 35 and 50. But it's just kind of his teammates, man. His teammates just haven't been there for him. And hopefully Anthony Edwards is good.
Yeah.
Hopefully they trade for Ben Simmons, man. Like let's
Man,
get
that'd be
this thing
perfect.
moving.
That'd be
Like
perfect.
you can't lose Karl-Anthony Towns. You're gonna get good packages, but the second he requests a trade, like
Yeah.
Minnesota's losing a team. Like
Yeah.
this guy, the team is getting shipped to Seattle.
Yeah.
So if you're Minnesota fans, if you want that Ben Simmons trade, because if he's not, this is Seattle Supersonics if he gets traded.
Yeah. But I honestly can't think of a more perfect pairing because Towns needs Simmons. He needs that help defensively. Simmons
Defensive
would
or
be the Aaron Gordon to
need
Denver's Jokic.
shooter.
And then Simmons needs a shooting center. So I can't think of a more perfect fit. Let's hope that happens. I don't even know
Yeah,
what it would take to get that done, but let's hope that happens.
yeah.
Yeah, man. I think it's time to talk
The classic
the
1-2.
yeah, the 1-2 that is never going to change. I think I don't like, at least for me, Jokic. I can't see unless he starts having some down years or anything like that. Like Jokic is just the best center in the league without a doubt.
Yeah.
Embiid is without a doubt number 2. I don't know. Do you see any scenario where Embiid can overtake him?
I think they're really close. I don't think they're like super far apart, but Jokic is just like he's just insane, man. Let me read these stats out to you. 26.4 points, 10.8 rebounds, 8.3 assists, 1.3 steals, 0.7 blocks, 86.8% from the free throw line, 2-point field goal percentage of 60.6%, and 3-point percentage of 38.8%. This guy was the fantasy beast. He was the first fantasy player. He was the NBA MVP. His team is going to be a contender for a long time to come because Jamal Murray's still young and coming back from the injury. Michael Porter Jr. is improving every single year and still young. Aaron Gordon is an amazing 4th option, still young. Jokic himself is only 25 years old. So this team is going to be here for years to come. They're going to be contenders for years to come. Jokic might not have this incredible year, right? Because this is an MVP type season. Sometimes your percentages might go down or whatever like that. He played every single game, 72. The year before that, he played 73. The year before that, 80. Year before that, 75. Year before that, 73. And year before that, 80.
Man,
this guy's been amazing. He's just improved every single year. Like, I can't even praise him enough, man. He's just like that good. Like he's just literally a top 10 NBA player this year because of how good he played.
There are no words to describe. You can't praise him enough. You can't it's impossible to praise him too much. And as good as he was this year, like I don't expect any slowdown whatsoever. Like calling a year like this a fluke, would you like is just like blasphemous in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because he gets better in the playoffs. We've seen that the last 2 or 3 years. He gets better. I have no doubt in my mind that you can win a championship with him as your best player. Like obviously you can.
Yeah.
He's for me, the most fun player to watch. A 7-footer who is
The
probably the
pass,
best post
score.
scorer in the league, and then
Yeah.
also a top 3 passer period in the entire league. Shoots the 3 like he does, and just like his whole personality and everything like that. How good of a teammate he is. He's the
Yeah.
perfect center. He's one of the most interesting centers of all time, and he could be like when it's all said and done, he's only 25. He could be on the Mount Rushmore of NBA centers. Like
Yeah.
when it's all said and done.
Yeah, it's hard to be on that Mount Rushmore centers because obviously centers dominated the league for so long, but
Yeah,
it's incredible what he's done. He's the first MVP in Denver. They could win their first championship. Like that's how good this guy is.
yeah,
We expect him, like, man, if this Nuggets core doesn't win a championship, I'll be kind of shocked, right? Like that's
yeah.
how good they
Same,
play with coaching and
same.
everything like that. So yeah, it's just incredible to watch. If you can watch a game of Jokic, go do it because I don't know how often you're gonna see a center who gets 10 assists a game.
Crazy.
Like it's just incredible. And the Jokic, like from last year, we were big fans of him too. He averaged 19.9, 9.7 rebounds and 7 assists. Like he was still incredible. We're like, oh man, you gotta go watch Jokic. But we always said he could score more, he could score more, he could score more.
And he did it.
This year, 26.4, man. Like he was just a beast, man. He was just doing everything. He was just scoring a fourth of the team's points while also dishing out
Yeah.
10 assists. Like he was literally like we have like LeBron James like second in our GOAT rankings, and he was literally putting up like stuff only comparable to LeBron.
Yeah, and durable. He played every game, right? Every game.
Every game of the season.
Like some people knock him for his lack of athleticism, but he's one of the most durable players, at least for his size
this
in
season.
the league.
Yeah.
So yeah, this season. Crazy. I don't think he'll be up with the MVP favorites going into next year. Just because I think Nikola will be up there at voter fatigue, all that stuff. But he will be an MVP caliber player for the rest of his prime, in my opinion. And he's just one of the best players in the league.
Yeah, this is a player that we're going to enjoy for the next decade because that's how good he is. And Embiid, his counterpart, I'm not going to say is going to be number 2 for the rest of the decade because Embiid is amazing.
Yeah.
Kind of the opposite of Jokic, though, from durability. Kind of worried about this guy because he didn't play his first 2 years. After that, he played 31 games his rookie season, and then 63, 64, and then 51, 51. So basically, he has had a lot of injury histories, but he's a 28.5 scorer, 10.6 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 1.4 blocks, 1 steal, 86% from the free throw line. I think people forget how good of a free throw shooter he is. 54% from the field, and he's a solid 3-point shooter at 37.7%, right? And once he actually gets shooters around him, get rid of Ben Simmons and get a shooting guard, like a shooting point guard in, they could have more success. He's going to have more better numbers, better efficiency. And what separates him and Jokic is the best playmaking center potentially of all time. Embiid is probably the best two-way player, outside of Giannis and AD, with his defense and another defensive player of the year candidate season last year. So it's just like two sides of two different coins, right? Offensive full juggernaut versus like the two-way player. It's fun to watch.
He's one of the most physically gifted players in the league. 7'1" at his weight, whatever he's like 275, 280, but also one of the most skilled centers. No one's as skilled as Jokic, but Embiid and Towns would be the next 2 skilled centers probably. Shoots 37% from 3, but unlike Towns, is an amazing defender. There's just not enough. The only thing you can say about him is that he's not durable. That's not his fault. But it seemed like this past year he started taking his conditioning more seriously, and that was a freak injury that he got in the playoffs and did play through it. So maybe durability is going to be less of a problem going forward. Let's hope he could totally be an MVP next year. Let's just hope that we just want to see the team around him that he deserves. We just want a shooting point guard.
Yeah, both these guys, 1 and 2, they you have to remember they're both basically MVP candidates, 1 and 2, right? Like they played that amazing. They were really good. They brought the center back position back into the NBA because at one point we were having Marc Gasol Marc Gasol was great, don't get me wrong, but he was never a 25-point scorer, and he was all NBA first team. DeAndre Jordan was getting all NBA third teams and stuff like that. But I think when we look at this list, when we look at the 1 and 2, the center position is back. It's skilled. They could shoot threes. They could get out. They could switch. They're defensive monsters. Uh, Center position is back in the NBA. They're here to dominate. Both Embiid's 26, Jokic is 25. They're here for the next decade. They're going to be amazing. Both those teams are going to be top, 4 seeds for the next decade. So it's going to be fun to watch. And man, there's nothing else to say. Like these teams, these two guys are just that good.
Yeah, that fun to watch. And the fact that for a lot of the year, centers were number 1 and 2 in the MVP voting is crazy. Like you said, these two guys are bringing the center position back, and they're doing it in such different ways that it's so it's just so interesting to see. It's just
so crazy.
What a time to be a basketball fan and a Denver fan.
Yeah.
Like we are.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so that was our top 10. Before we go, obviously our Raptors don't have any top 10 centers. Probably don't have any top 15 centers. But I just want to talk a little bit about the rotation that we're going to see this year from the Raptors, because I think there are a lot of different looks that they're going to be able to throw at teams. And while there isn't one standout center, I think the production they're going to be able to piece together is going to be really good. And I actually don't think it's going to be nearly as much of a weakness as some people are saying. Just what do you think about the rotation going into the season?
So the center rotation is, we have Birch probably starting. We have Precious getting a decent amount of minutes as backup center. We've seen OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam play small ball center. We've seen Boucher get center minutes as well, even though, Nurse has said he is a power forward naturally, and he will play as like the backup power forward. Scotty Barnes has a 7'2" wingspan at 6'9", and he's pretty strong and athletic. So, he'll get some backup center minutes too. They could close with a lineup of Boucher at the center, with Siakam at the 4, OG at the 3. You can see Barnes closing at the center spot, with OG and Siakam, because they got like rotate and be really like positionless, like we're just bare rotations and quick switches, helps, doubles on big centers. And I think the center spot, instead of having a loopy big guy, like a slow big guy in Baines, who's just running up and down, not really giving you anything, can have really high energy guys that are gonna jump out the gym, switch on everything, and it's gonna help the team so much more.
Exactly. We're there. The rotation is gonna be like, I don't know if anyone's gonna play 27 to 28 minutes a game, like as a center. We just got guys who are gonna come in for 16, 20, 24 minutes, just hustle, help wherever they can, run the floor. We got like good offensive rebounding. Precious is a very good offensive rebounder. Kem Birch is a very good offensive rebounder. I think Freddie Gillespie also is going to be in there playing like maybe 8 to 10 minutes a game sometimes.
Yeah, just
energy, big body. But when the Raptors can throw out like so many different looks, Boucher at the 4, doing his thing, shooting, blocking shots out on the perimeter. Pascal maybe. OG is probably actually a better small ball center than Pascal is.
Yeah.
We saw him guard Jokic sometimes. We saw him guard, I think it was Towns at one point. We know what he can do. It's not a long-term thing, but the last 5 minutes a game, if you really need to, I think that's something you can throw out. Obviously, Giannis, the wall's not going to be nearly as good against Giannis. Embiid, obviously. Jokic, obviously. But who stops those guys anyway, right? Like those guys are going to go off anyway, right? So I'm actually pretty optimistic about this rotation, and out of all the options we have, someone is probably going to emerge as just like a better center than they probably look at this point. Precious Achiuwa is probably the main candidate for that. But we'll see.
Yeah, and we've seen how much Miami fans praise Precious, and they're like, "Oh man, stuff that we lost him, but Lowry's worth it and stuff like that." Like we've seen from them, we've seen from Summer League. Like this guy has Clint Capela potential that we talked about earlier. He definitely is a guy that just some pure energy, pure positional awareness, like just vertical switchability. He's only 6'8", but he plays really big. He's someone that can really grab like 10 boards, and he's just an offensive rebounding menace.
Yeah, no, totally. I don't even going into next year, I don't even think one of these guys will be like a top 10 center candidate for these lists. But if we're talking center by committees in the league, like, and you're just looking at the entire body of who's going to be spending time at the 5, like the Raptors are not a bottom 5 bottom 8 team. Like they're probably at least middle of the pack. And with the coaching we know they're going to have, with the hustle, the guys who are going to be looking to prove their spot in the league, like I think we could be getting top 10, maybe top 15, like production from the center spot, you know?
Yeah. And got old guys like Marcus and stuff. Like these guys are going to just get blown out to, the court when we see all this like athleticism and speed from the center spot. It's just like it's just the two big bodies in Jokic and Embiid that are going to really cause us trouble. But you see those guys that combined 6 times out of 82.
Exactly.
So don't sweat it.
Hey, DeAndre Ayton's a 7'1", whatever, 265-pound center, and he got destroyed by Giannis. Dominated. So like, you're not stopping Giannis anyway.
No matter what, yeah.
So I think we're both pretty optimistic for the Raptors center rotation. No one cracked our top 10 from our team, but that's okay. I think our top 10 was much different than last year. I know I had Jaren Jackson Jr. in there last year and Marc Gasol. Yeah. I think we both had Andre Drummond. I kind of forget the rest, but it's looking a lot different. We can see the way the league is trending. Christian Wood, two-way center who can shoot. DeAndre Ayton, two-way center. Bam. Like a lot of these guys are having pretty high assist numbers.
Yeah. Everyone on our center list was mobile.
Yeah.
Like who was the most like
maybe not Vucevic, but like
he's still quick and he's a 40% 3-point shooter.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's how he makes up for it. So it's either you're really, really quick.
Yeah.
Or you're shooting like Steph Curry, 40% on the 3-point line.
Yeah.
So you got to choose one to do. And I think most of these centers are going to be quick, and foot speed is definitely going to be something that is really focused on for big guys and their future development coming into the league.
And like we just said, our Raptors have a ton of foot speed, if anything. Not too much shooting. I guess Boucher, but not too much shooting from center position, but tons and tons of foot speed. And we know what you can do with that. So that does it for our top 10 centers. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode. We'll be back next week to talk power forwards and then small forwards the week after and so on. Until then, you can follow us on Instagram at Stretch the Floor Podcast. Check out our STF Clips page on YouTube. Subscribe there for the best clips from the podcast. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast feed wherever you get them. Leave a 5-star rating and review because it all really helps with the algorithm. But again, thank you for listening to this, and we'll see you back next week.